Hello, and welcome to Tzedakah Chapter's At Our Table 2022, our 19th annual At Our Table event in support of children, women, and healthcare in Israel and Canada. My name is Sandy Herlick, and on behalf of my co-chairs, Eileen Flatt and Julie Solomon, I want to welcome you here tonight and thank you for joining us. Whether you are joining us in the Paradise Theater or from the comfort of your home, we are so thrilled to share tonight with you. After 2 years of wonderfully creative virtual events, tonight it is especially exciting to have a sold-out event here in person. Over the years, At Our Table has raised over $2.25 million, and tonight alone we have already raised $250,000. This is thanks to you, our incredibly loyal and generous donors. Some of you have been with us from the beginning, 19 years ago. Others are joining us for the first time tonight. To all of you, thank you from the bottom of our hearts. It is your generosity that impacts the lives of so many and makes it all possible. We feel blessed to know you. Now please sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. It is now my pleasure to introduce Barb Rosenstein, President of CHW Toronto, to say a few words.
Hi, my name is Barb Rosenstein, and it's my great pleasure as CHW Toronto Centre President to bring greetings to you this evening. Thank you for your continued support of Canadian Hadassah-WIZO. For over 100 years, CHW has made a positive and lasting impact on the very fabric of Israeli society by transforming the lives of women and children. It's our mission to ensure that at-risk women and children can access state-of-the-art healthcare, education, and social services in a safe and secure environment. The incredibly committed and talented women of Tzedakah Chapter have hosted this elegant event for 19 years and have raised a tremendous amount. Funds that have supported hospitals, schools, and supported youth mental health, all projects in Israel and here in Canada funded by Canadian Hadassah-WIZO. Because of your enduring philanthropy, CHW continues to make an impact by changing lives, providing hope, and building futures. Our deep gratitude goes to the 2022 At Our Table event co-chairs, Sandra Herlick, Eileen Flatt, and Julie Solomon, and their entire committee who collectively ensured the success of tonight's event. Mazel tov to all of you. Thank you everyone for your steadfast support of CHW, and please enjoy the rest of the evening's program.
Thank you, Barb, for your kind words and for your support. My name is Eileen Flatt, and it is my honor to introduce our presenting sponsor, Helen Ching Kirscher of DFC Auto Group. Helen Ching Kirscher is a remarkable woman. As principal owner, president, and CEO of DFC Auto Group, Helen was At Our Table's first corporate sponsor 18 years ago. Her commitment to supporting women, children, and healthcare is very close to her heart. Today, she and DFC Auto Group remain integral to the success of the At Our Table event as our presenting sponsor. Helen has been recognized for her charitable work and awarded the Queen Elizabeth II Diamond Jubilee Medal and the Order of Ontario for her contribution to the province. Helen is joining us from her state-of-the-art new showroom on Lakeshore Boulevard, where she and her family are continuing the legacy she has created personally, professionally, and philanthropically.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Helen Ching Kirscher, the dealer principal, president, and CEO of Helen Ching Kirscher Inc. DFC Auto Group comprises of Audi Uptown and Porsche Center downtown Toronto, where I am today at our new state-of-the-art Generation 5 Porsche Center at 259 Lakeshore Boulevard, east at the corner of Parliament and Lakeshore. My staff and I look forward to welcoming all of you to visit of our new location. For almost 40 years, I devoted myself to building successful business, to giving back to my community and supporting healthcare, arts, and culture, funding project for Mount Sinai's research, where I am on the board of governors, and most recently supporting the McEwen Stem Cell Research Center at TGH. 18 years ago, when Robin Turek approached me to become associate with Tzedakah chapter, a group of dedicated women that give so much for the well-being of children and women, to be the first presenting corporate sponsor for At Our Table, I could only say yes. I remember the fundraising for Rosalie State Care Center in Israel and many other initiatives for CHW, including Hadassah Hospital, Shamir Medical Center, and the Jerome Diamond Adolescent Center in Toronto. As a mother, grandmother, and daughter, the needs of women and children, both at home and abroad, have always been close to my heart as a businesswoman, philosophy, and custodian. I'm honored to be part of this expecting group of passionate women dedicated to CHW, helping vulnerable women, children, and healthcare in facility in our community and in Israel. The past 2 years have had a great impact on all of us. The needs are greater than ever. My heartfelt commitment to CHW and Tzedakah chapter in steadfast, and with all your help, we will continue to build a brighter future for those in need. At Porsche Center downtown Toronto and Audi Uptown, we are looking forward to welcoming everyone back to attend the amazing event which we have hosted in the past. Whether you are joining us in person or at home this evening, I know we will see each other soon. Thank you. Be well and stay safe.
Thank you, Helen, for your inspiring words and your loyal and very generous support over the years. While we all love to sip, savor, and schmooze, the main goal of this evening is to raise funds for two very important projects: the new Institute of Pulmonary Functions and Diseases at the Shamir Medical Center in Israel and the Jerome D. Diamond Adolescent Center here in Toronto. Please join me as we learn more about these very special places and hear from people whose lives have been touched.
My name is Emily. I'm 36 years old. I live in Lod, Israel. Basically, I've been asthmatic for since I was 9, but it always was mild. So an inhaler with me, but use it once in a while when needed, and that's it. And at the beginning of 2019, I feel like I can't breathe. I walk 2 steps and I just can't catch my breath. It started getting to the point where daily tasks were hard to do because you don't have enough air. Like going and taking a shower was very hard. It's like getting from the parking lot of my job to the office. I came in and I can't breathe. At home, any task, like to play with the kid, to help with homework and anything, it's like sitting down, getting up, and it disrupted everything in my life. I came to the emergency room after some tests there, some blood tests. They said there's some abnormalities and they want me to get hospitalized and checked by the lung division. Well, it was shocking because I ended up staying for over a week because of a very poor lung function. And there I, of course, met Dr. Fox.
So when I first met Emily, she was hospitalized with a very severe asthma attack. She was in internal medicine on steroids and oxygen, in really bad shape. We managed to get her onto one of the new biological treatments for severe asthma, which are amazing. And her asthma started to get controlled. And once her asthma got controlled, she was able to go and have bariatric surgery. And she just flourished and she lost a lot of weight. and her asthma is controlled, and she's never in the hospital, and she's having a great life.
I want to thank Dr. Fox really for his help and assistance all the way, and still to this day with the lung treatment and the caring and the consultations and getting me back on my feet where I can actually live my life and not just watch them go by.
This building here, it's the Pulmonary Institute, I think for many years, and it's actually a building that was constructed as a barracks for British soldiers during the Mandate, which is really not ideal. And the floor, you know, it's a bit wobbly, and the walls are a bit crooked, and the water comes in sometimes, and, you know, asbestos roof still, you know, which is kind of ironic in a pulmonary institute to have an asbestos roof, right? Because it causes lung disease. So this is our current bronchoscopy room in Shamir Medical Center. It's kind of small, and it's a little bit difficult to ventilate it. This room has to be very carefully ventilated because we have all sorts of weird infections, lung infections, tuberculosis, corona. We'll be able to do much more complicated and long and more difficult procedures that we're not able to do at the current time, because the design of the new department will have a room which is much larger. We'll be able to get more equipment in. We're going to have hopefully the capability to do anesthesia inside the bronchoscopy room. So that will be a real critical advancement in the new department. We've already got year on year 30 or 40% more patients every year. But I expect that growth to continue, and you know, we're training new doctors here and building a new department, and hopefully have enough space to take care of them all. So we really appreciate the help that we're getting from CHW in this very exciting and innovative project. It's going to be incredibly helpful to the people that we serve.
I want to use this opportunity to thank you. To thank you for the huge support, current support, but the support goes back for many years. We feel the support, and it's a lot more than the money. It's the friendship. And stay healthy, and love you. Thank you.
It's so nice to join you today. My name is Karen, and my son Harrison attends the Jerome D. Diamond Center. I'm here to share just a little bit of the impact that JDD has had on our family. We're on a little holiday, and it's the beginning of the day. I thought, what a nice metaphor to share my message to you about how grateful we are for your support. It's the beginning of the day, and it is a day filled with potential, and we don't know what's coming, but we want it to be good. And so here I am with the birds chirping and the sun rising behind me. So a little bit about our family. My husband and I, we have 5 children, and it goes girl, girl, boy, boy, girl. Harrison, our son at JDD, he's our middle child. And a middle child in many ways. I once heard this saying that the oldest child says, I make the rules. And the middle child says, I'm the reason you have rules. And the youngest child says, the rules don't apply to me. And I think that rings true for our family. You know, a little bit about Harrison. When he was almost 2 years old, I went away to the hospital for a few days to have our 4th child, our son. And what we didn't know at the time was that he would be born with Down syndrome and many of the accompanying health issues.
So while I thought I'd be coming home from the hospital in a day or so, as I did with the other kids, I ended up not coming home for many weeks, a couple of months really, as he was in the NICU with lots of challenges. He had cardiac issues, etc. And the next number of months and years really were bumpy for our family. We had many extended hospital stays. And things changed. I think it really impacted Harrison, our son at JDD, because it was those key developmental years, and it was a struggle for all of us, but I think it was especially tricky for Harrison. When we finally came up for air, we knew that we needed to provide additional supports for Harrison. He ended up attending several different schools, and we have found a home at JDD, and for that we're just so grateful. And we're grateful to you for allowing that support to be there for him, especially after all we've been through in the pandemic. He feels supported, he feels seen and heard. He knows that he matters, and for that I just want to say thank you.
Our chapter is so pleased to be able to support these centers in both Israel and Toronto. With the help of your generous donations to At Our Table this year, the physical and mental health of socially and economically diverse patients and families will be improved through the state-of-the-art facilities and skilled professionals. My name is Julie Solomon, and it gives me great pleasure to continue this evening's presentation featuring Rosalie Sharp. Rosalie exemplifies class, creativity, and strength in her various roles as a loving wife, mother, artist, and philanthropist. Her recent memoir, Me and Izzy, A Four Seasons Romance, is a touching and candid recollection of many experiences that shaped the incredible woman that she is today. Rosalie generously invited us into her home for a conversation with renowned Canadian social columnist Shanann Govani. Welcome, Rosalie and Shanann.
They say behind every successful man is a woman. In the case of Rosalie Sharp, author, artist, philanthropist, you could easily say that she has stood beside her husband, the legendary founder of Four Seasons, Isidore Sharp. She stood elbow to elbow with him, and she talks beautifully about their relationship, their life together, some of their challenges in her new book, Me and Izzy, A Four Seasons Romance. It's a book that covers it all: love, life, and hospitality. And it's particularly interesting in the way it gives us a front row seat in terms of the expansion of the Four Seasons empire, going from Maui to Milan, from Buenos Aires to Bora Bora. As she writes in her book, we ate cross-legged in our socks on a floor in Kyoto and dined on silk cushions in the company of camels in the desert near Riyadh. Rosalie, yes. Let's backtrack and go back to your early life. I wanted to ask you about your upbringing, what life was like in the Toronto of your youth, what your parents did. Paint a picture.
Well, before I paint the picture, Shanann, thank you very much for doing this.
My pleasure.
It's very kind of you, and before we start, I have to know, I Googled you, and it said that you're a refugee from Uganda. So what I want to know is...
You're going to start interviewing me now?
No, I'm curious. I have to know how old were you when you...
I was a baby, yes. But my earliest days did start in a refugee camp, yeah. Needless to say, it shaped my entire worldview, and the story of my parents casts a shadow
Did
on
you write
everything.
about it?
I've written a little bit about it, yeah.
Well, it
And-
would be a good story, so I'm looking forward
Well, thank you.
to your book.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
So now you want to know about my early
Now about you, Rosalie.
my early life. I mean, what did you? I just remember I grew up on the sidewalks of North Toronto. My father was very courageous and moved from the downtown Jewish ghetto
Right.
and opened a dry goods store, which you no longer have, but in those days, in the 30s, they were prevalent. So we lived in 3 different shops in the same block on Yonge Street. And my garden was the concrete outside the shop. And friends, there weren't any because there were no children around. So I grew up very by myself. My brother didn't come along till 10 years later because I begged for him. I begged for a brother and a bicycle. And equally, you know how little kids can beg, and I got them both. There were a lot of good things about that. I like my own company. I'm reclusive now, and I think that
Well, you were alone for 10 years, like you
I
said.
was alone.
Yeah.
I was alone. And what happened to me is that my mother sent me off to school when I was 4.5 because she needed a babysitter. So I was about 5 years old in grade 1, and Miss Sharp read us a chapter a day of Kenneth Graham's The Wind in the Willows. And without that book, I would be a different person because I was enthralled with that book. Just to see animals speaking to each other, it was just such a world I'd never imagined. So as soon after that as I could, I joined the library, which was St. Clement's in Yonge, and I lived up here. I don't know if that's 1.5 miles or 2 miles.
Yeah.
And I would walk down to that library almost every day. Once I got a book in the morning, read it in the afternoon, took it back, and the librarian said, "A book may not be returned on the day on which it is borrowed." It says here on the back cover. So I could not get another book. I remember I had to walk the 2 miles back with no book. So, and my parents spoke Yiddish to each other, so I know the language. And it's a very long story about the store. My mother was always in the back in the sewing machine working the treadle. She had beautiful legs from working that treadle on the Singer sewing machine, making up goods to sell in the shop. And I did all the signs. That was my first artistic, I did all the signs for the children's overalls, 198.
You say in your book that that you have inherited some of the things that your mother would do, like some of the austerity of your upbringing has bled into your life. Like you keep the cardboard from shirts to write on, the cardboard from pantyhose with its rounded corners makes an ideal bookmark, etc. I think some people might be surprised to hear that, given that you don't lack much these days, but yet this is still inside you, right?
It is, yes. I never waste. I don't believe in waste. If there's food left over, I make sure someone gets it. I don't like to toss anything out.
Right. Let's fast forward a little bit to meeting the love of your life, which came at a wedding, I believe.
Yes.
Tell us about that moment.
Okay.
That dance, that first dance.
Yeah. It's so romantic. Well, I was the bridesmaid for my 17-year-old schoolmate, Pearl Godfrey, and the Godfreys were first cousins, was Izzy's mother's brother's children. So Isidore was there. He says that he didn't really want to go, but his mother insisted. So just about how random life is, you know, random events. He asked me for a dance, and he knew the jitterbug, and I didn't. And so I was rushing.
And he was wearing very specific shoes, right?
Blue suede shoes.
Blue suede shoes.
Blue suede shoes.
Yeah.
And he was just so gorgeous. He had copper-colored hair, copper-colored eyebrows, and
You write his lean torso rivaled Michelangelo's statue of David.
I didn't.
And I blush to say still does.
Oh, okay, I'm blushing. Oh dear, did I say that? Oh well. So we had a dance, and I tried to keep up with him. As I say, he was very nimble. And as a matter of fact, I never did quite get the hang of the jitterbug, although I'm a good dancer.
Yes.
But the jitterbug.
Yeah, you never
is
stopped dancing together.
No.
Yes.
We dance.
Yeah.
We did. And he said, he asked for my phone number. So now I have a page from my diary at that time, and it said, my diary said, I couldn't wait to get to school today to tell Merle. And I found her at her locker. I said, Merle, I have met the love of my life, or something to the effect. And I know he's never going to call me. And he didn't for a week. And then a week later, he called me, and we went to the Imperial Theater to see Sailor Beware, a very bad Jerry Lewis movie. So we are sitting at the Imperial Theater, 3 rows up from the side, the 2 aisle seats, and we sit down, and as soon as the movie starts, Izzy slides down in a seat and goes to sleep. And I admired that so much. I was so, and do you know that to this day I can't take a nap anywhere in front of a TV or anywhere. He continues to this day his cool nature, laid back, quiet. To this day, I still admire that in him.
And your wedding, you said it was a little stressful, right?
Yeah, I would have given, if I had my way, I would have preferred to elope.
Yeah.
Because I'm not much for parties and galas and all the rest.
That's right.
But I was so happy when we turned around after under the chuppah, which is the wedding canopy. We turned around and faced the audience to walk down. I was just so thrilled because I thought, my life is new. It's the most incredible adventure. I don't have to go home and sleep in my bedroom at home. I'll be my life will be new. And I was really so exalted, happy at that moment.
The one thing I discern from having talked to you a little bit and reading your book is that in terms of your relationship with Izzy, there are things that you guys have which are similarities. You're a part of this last generation of, of families that were speaking Yiddish in the home, etc.
Yeah, right.
But on the other hand, it's so clear that you revel in each other's differences, that you're such different people. Like you talk about in the book, like how he loves skiing and you could care less. Is that one of the secrets, just delighting in each other, in letting the other person be who they want to be? Yeah,
I think that Izzy has a great appreciation for me, and I mean that's required, isn't it? If you don't appreciate your mate to the full extent, he really appreciates me, and he took me from being insecure and all the rest to, you know, I'm beginning to, he's very uxorious. Now that's uxorious, the Latin word that says excessively fond of one's wife. He is definitely. I mean,
There must be a good Yiddish word for that too.
There is. I mean, I always feel sorry for the person he's sitting next to at a banquet, because he will regale that poor person with how good his wife is. I know, I can see it. I can see she starts to get a little bored about the whole thing.
In terms of your life with Izzy, as the years advanced and the Four Seasons brand burgeoned, you know, kind of went around the world, I find it interesting, as someone who calls themselves a closet loner, someone who actually kind of enjoyed the pandemic because of all the solitude, right?
Exactly.
But yet you had this role because of your husband, of being sort of the first lady of the brand. How did you adjust to that role, and how did you get a hang of sort of going to these events and talking to people at dinners?
Well, I can do that quite easily, as we're doing now.
Yeah.
I can do that quite easily. So I think my parents and the upbringing I had just prepares you to face anything new with courage and do the best you can. So I think that's one of the things. I can do what needs to be done.
And be in the moment.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So I have to, and surprisingly, I enjoy it. And, you know, I never look forward to it, but then when the time comes, I enjoy it.
Yeah.
Like we have many parties here, business dinners for 20 with Four Seasons people and the people that we're wooing from foreign lands, very foreign. It can be fascinating. I think that I loved to go backpacking when I was a kid, but in my family, the Jewish family,
Yeah.
I was not even allowed to sleep at someone's house.
No sleepovers.
No sleepovers.
Yeah.
So there was a time
Well,
when...
you've made up for it with your travels, I think.
I have.
Yeah.
I certainly have, right.
Your book goes into so many more of your adventures and your encounters. One I did want to stop and talk about a little bit, because I'm fascinated by it, is that you and Izzy were at that very famous Malcolm Forbes party in Morocco, I believe, right?
Yes.
And which was hosted by Elizabeth Taylor, and Le Two were there, the Kissingers, Barbara Walters, etc. Tell me a little bit about that moment. Give us a little taste. Yeah.
Well, there were two 727s.
Right. Picking everyone up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We all flew there.
Yeah.
It was like a 3-day affair.
Right.
I do remember I was talking to somebody very important like Barbara Walters. I don't know, it wasn't Barbara Walters. And they kind of looked at me and their eyes slid off my face onto somebody else, because I was like the only nobody who was there.
The eyes were moving. Who else is in the room? Yes.
Right. I remember that moment.
Yeah. Now tell us about the ways in which the personal and the business coincided, because at a certain point you started a design firm, and you also began to work on some Four Seasons properties. How did that all begin? What was the gestation period?
Well, I decided that when my youngest boy was 3, I was going to go back to art college, because when I was at school, I wanted to go to art college, but I went on to university with the crowd because I was in that class at school, where language class, nobody went to art college. So I thought I would go to art college. So I went to speak to the principal, Mr. Watson, And he said I wanted to do part-time because I had 4 kids.
Yeah.
So Mr. Watson said, sorry, we don't take part-time students. So that night, Izzy and I are having dinner at Angelini's on Avenue Road, near the middle of the long window. And I told Izzy kind of tearfully that I can't, it's really sad, I can't go to our college, they won't accept me. So he said, just go. You're not going to fail for attendance. Just go to, and you'll go as much as you can and do it. And I never thought of that. So I did.
He encouraged you.
He encouraged me. He not only encouraged me, I would never thought of going if they wouldn't take part-time students. So I went for 4 years, dropped my kids off every day at the French school at Yonge and St. Clair, was home before they were. I was the only student who worked at school. Everybody went to the cafeteria to play bridge or do whatever they did. And I stayed in the classroom, did all my assignments during the day. Usually you had 3 weeks to do an assignment. And the reason I did that is because I wanted to do interior design for the Four Seasons, but wife of, I thought I need credentials. So that's why, that was my impetus to go to school. That was the main impetus. So after 4 years, I graduated at the top of the school and then opened Rosalie WIZO
And
Design.
your name is now on the school.
Oh yeah, it's everywhere.
Yeah.
It's everywhere, right? Anyhow.
So what was your first significant project in terms of the Four Seasons?
I think it was Houston.
Yeah.
Yeah, Houston. I did the typical guest rooms and corridors and yeah, I did some innovative things like paint walls instead of wallpaper, paint walls white. Now that sounds, every house in the world is white.
Yeah.
Nobody had ever used white.
Right.
When I used white in the hotel rooms, in the Magpie scheme, we called it. It was black, gray carpet, black and white with white walls, and
I think you also mentioned that you kind of pushed Izzy in the Four Seasons to start using duvets.
yeah, I did.
Yeah.
I tried to.
That's the origin story of duvet.
Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah.
Well, in the Four Seasons.
Yeah.
But I got rid of the pelmet, or what do you call it? The top of the curtain.
Yeah.
And just had side panels. A certain number of things. Instead of having 2 chairs and a round table, I had 1 chair and an ottoman, and then a desk that went angled from the wall with 2 chairs. That was, and then that became the industry standard.
Now, it seems like you've always been sort of aesthetically inclined. You write even in your book about your fascination with flowers and the shapes of leaves. Interesting enough, you're not that outdoorsy, but you love looking at shapes of...
From the window.
From the window, right?
From the window. That's
So
a good title.
Which part of... Yeah, exactly. What part of the brain, of your brain, do you think sort of all of that comes from? Like,
well,
this interest in the visual.
Well, we're going to get into sadness now.
Yeah.
Because my mother was one of 6 children, and everyone in her family, except her mother and herself and 1 other sister, they were not artistic. But the rest of them they all could do drawings, and my uncle, my young uncle, who wasn't so much older than me, all of these people perished in the Holocaust, and I never met them. But I met them through letters that they wrote to my mother in Yiddish. I have them, box full of them. So I read about them, and my uncle was a sign painter. The last sad thing that he wrote in his letter, almost the last letter, he said, they need some signs in Ozerov, that was it. And that's easy for me. And the sign, they need signs saying Jewish shops, because Poles were not allowed. It was against the law for people to shop in Jewish shops. So he made the signs for that. So he writes about that. And if I go into the Holocaust, I will need a box of Kleenex, so let's not go there. I can't. It is so everlasting sad for me. Everlastingly sad.
It's always there, right?
It's always, I say, it lurks around the fringes of my mind. I mean, anything good that happens to me and my life, I always measure it against the 50 members of my mother's family that perished in the Holocaust, not to mention the other millions. So I measure it against that. But the people in Ukraine today are suffering a lot.
You see the echoes.
It's so, it seems like man's inhumanity to man it just never seems to go away. It seems that people are just so capable of cruelty. And always. You'd think that we would make progress, but we don't seem to be.
Let's veer back to your love of the visual and craftsmanship and talk about an enduring passion of yours. We're in your home where we see much evidence of that. Can we have a look at
let's go for it. Let's have a tour.
Some of your collection?
Okay.
Let's do it.
Shanann, you asked about my paintings. These are my latest paintings. These here, and they're oil on canvas. And here's I've done about 250 paintings since 2010.
And how long does it take you generally to do a painting?
It can take a few days. Sometimes if it's depends on the style. If it's abstract, it's quicker.
And tell me what is the pleasure you get when you're painting? Are you just in a zone?
I'm in a zone. I think in order to do anything well, you have to be in the zone. I think that's the way it is. You have to be completely focused on something to do well at
So
it.
does Izzy know not to bug you when you're painting?
Oh, he can bug me. And while we're here, we might as well look.
What is this?
That's my table center. Yes, that's my table center. I first did it for Passover, the land of Israel, but then it stayed by popular demand, because I would usually every season do something like that. In the spring, bulbs. In the fall, color.
So is this a work in progress? Like, are you tinkering with it, or?
No. Well, no, those are, you just have to spray those every 10 days with a little water.
I think this table setting says a lot about you. That you do your own thing.
Yeah, well, we've had many dinner parties here.
Right.
And look what happened here. This is so amazing. See, this is a Jewish star, a Star of David.
Right.
And it just happened. I didn't intend to put a Star of David, but it just materialized.
Your subconscious.
I went to some seminars and bought one piece of china, and then it took off. It took off.
So before that, it had not been
No,
on your
before
radar?
that, I was doing carpets. I collected carpets. I studied carpets. The backs belong to the Haji Baba Carpet Society. And here is a couple of paintings. You can see kind of realistic.
These are yours?
Yes.
Yeah.
This that house is around the corner, and one spring day we were walking when the blossoms were out, and there was blossoms. Not quite like that, of course, but just the idea. Well, this is my grand dog. here.
Grand
Yes.
dog.
That's
Yeah.
one grand dog, and that's another grand dog.
Okay.
And so there, and that's of course me in the mirror. This is my studio.
Yes.
This is the kitchen, but I don't cook. I have no idea what I'm going to do. Painting is collaborative between me and the canvas and the brush. Here we have, these are all my ladies, my daughters-in-law, myself, my Emily, Julia. I started like that. You see this painting down here? That kind of a thing. And that. And now this is what I'm doing. Like every artist starts with, it loses detail as he goes along and becomes simpler. Also the china. So we have 6 cabinets of mid-18th century blue and white ceramics, and these are goods that people would use in their kitchen. These are not gilt-edged things. Teapots
And is that what you found interesting about them? Sort of the
That they're
historical
yes.
component? Yeah.
Well, I did a book called Ceramics, Ethics, and Scandal, which is over there on the table.
Good title.
And yeah, and it's about the social history of this time.
Yes.
How
people lived and
how people lived, ladies who poured the tea, the duchesses, the dukes, the common folk. So I delved into the sociology of the time, like the social history.
So that's kind of the
time.
undercurrent of your interest.
Yeah, I would like to know where these pieces have been since 1756, but I don't.
Yeah.
So, and there's more. I think there's about 1,800 pieces in the house.
And at some point, these are all going to be donated to the Gardner Museum.
Yes, the blue and white collection.
All right, Rosalie, we're nearing the end of our conversation. We could talk for a few more hours, but I did wanted to ask you about your involvement with CHW. How did that come about, and why is it important to you?
Well, Hadassah, I belonged to a chapter when I was young and had a baby, like every other Jewish girl of my age. I joined the Nowar chapter of Hadassah, and we had the Hadassah Bazaar. It was at the automotive building at the CNE.
Yep.
It made about $75,000 a year, but that was in the 1950s. Maybe 100,000 it got up to. And people would donate. I wish they still had the Hadassah Bazaar, because there's so many, when you want to give away things, you want to give them to somebody that could in need. It was a good, very good thing. So I belong to Hadassah because it raises money for Israel, and Israel is very close to my heart because it's the country of the Jews who never had a country, and it began after the Holocaust. After the war, the people who were left, a lot of them went to Israel and founded the country. And it's very close to my Jewish heart to raise money for those people who worked in swamps, changed the desert made the desert green, and have contributed so much to our world, medicine, and if you go with Nobel Prizes, we have done so much for the world, Jews have. And I think we're building a hotel there, Four Seasons. We've been building it for many years.
There isn't one there.
No.
Mm-hmm. On a side note, both you and your husband, your entire family has contributed so much in terms of philanthropy. Tell us about some of the most important contribution you think you've been able to make, and how do you choose what you're going to support in your priorities?
We choose like whoever asks.
that easy.
No, we get asked
Yeah.
frequently
Sure.
to support a lot of causes, and we give, there's, in the Jewish tradition, there is something called Tzedakah, which means giving,
Service.
gifts.
Yeah, yeah.
And Tzedakah, it's charity, but it's different. The word means that it's both a privilege and a responsibility to give.
The main takeaway I come away with talking to you, I think most people will, is that you've lived this very full, rich life while remaining fully yourself. And on that note, I'm just curious, what kind of message can you impart to people, and particularly women, in terms of how you've lived your life? I mean, there's a part in your book where you talk about the life-changing book that you read by Betty Friedan, right?
Betty Friedan. Right.
The Feminine Mystique.
Yeah.
And in terms of like not living this trapped life, is that kind of a guiding post for you?
Well,
Yeah.
in the 1950s, the feminine mystique, it changed
Sure.
my life. It was after The Wind in the Willows.
Mm-hmm.
The feminine mystique was the next book
Mm-hmm.
that affected me. But today, things have changed.
Mm-hmm.
Today, women are at the top.
I think even though there's been obviously a lot of social change and there's many more options available to people, I think that feeling of feeling trapped or wanting to march to your own drum, that sometimes never changes for people, don't you think?
It's hard to balance. It's so much easier these days to balance family and work.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think women today will settle for being a mother and a wife.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think that the change has come.
Mm-hmm. What would you say is your legacy, or what you would like your legacy to be?
Well, I guess my legacy are going to be my great grandkids,
Right.
and who will contribute to the world and will read my books.
Yeah.
And will get to know me like I would have liked to get to know my great-grandmother, but she didn't write, and she went to her death in that horrible way, so I'll never know them. I can't think of it. Are you here? Yeah. What would you say is our legacy? Come and can you answer that question? Could you answer that question for me? Come and sit here and answer that question, okay? Good, I don't know. The legacy,
Okay, Izzy, your wife has put you on the hot seat for this last question. I think it's an easy one for you because all you have to do is praise your wife. We were asking about what is her legacy, and I think it's safe to say, you've said this before, that you would not have had this life, and dare I say you would have not had this company without her. What has she contributed? What is her legacy?
There's no doubt in my mind that having married Rosalie has been the seed of my success, because she has always been unconditionally supportive. And she starts every day with a positive outlook, and it's going to be good.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're confronted with somebody like that, and it's not just me, I think her legacy is beyond what I have done. I think a legacy is related to how many other people are affected by what you have spent your life doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that her legacy is broader than just what she might have accomplished. it's the influence that she's had that I think has affected thousands on me and as a result of what I've done, but also if you carry it through to our children, our grandchildren, and now our great-grandchildren.
Sure.
And I believe the book she has just written will be a great example because of her unusual gift of being a writer. So her legacy is one of living a life of joy and contributing to others, which will go on through many generations. Legacy is, I believe, is most important with the numbers of people who will benefit from having known Rosalie, having read about her, and of course, appreciating all the things she has accomplished.
Well, the two of you have been a remarkable team, and I think this is as good a place as any to end it. Thank you so much to
My pleasure.
Izzy and, of course, Rosalie for your time today. It's been a treat.
And thank you, Shannon.
Thank you. Here she comes, the lady of the hour.
You talked about your legacy.
He's talked about his legacy, you know.
I figured out the answer to that question. The answer to what's my legacy is that I'm married to the guy who has a legacy.
Thank you, Shanann, and thank you, Rosalie. I'm Jeannie Sklar, one of the co-chairs of the evening presentation video, and on behalf of the At Our Table Committee and the entire Tzedakah chapter of CHW, I just wanted to thank you from the bottom of my heart for your participation tonight and for agreeing to be our featured speaker. You are truly an inspiration. From your work as an interior designer, the Studio Cafe is a personal favorite of mine, to the enlightening books that you have written, especially your most recent book, Izzy and Me, A Four Seasons Romance, to your philanthropy. You are so inspiring to all of us. I think that perhaps your greatest achievement is your beautiful family that you and Izzy have created, and the way that your children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren adore and respect you is a tribute to you both. Please accept these flowers as a small token of our gratitude, and thank you again so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
A butter kiss.
What a wonderful evening this has been for our Hadassah chapter and for all of our guests. We are delighted once again to be able to unite women in support of CHW and the incredible programs that it supports here and in Israel. A huge thanks goes to the CHW staff and our incredible Tzedakah chapter volunteers and membership. Our dedicated committees have worked for months on all the details to ensure that this event would be a success, and we are so grateful. Many thanks go out to the Edible Story, who have once again provided all our guests with incredible, creative, and delicious dishes. To our donors and vendors, we are so appreciative of your support and the huge role you play in the success of our event. Before we close, we want you to know that our online raffle, with 13 amazing prize packages, is live until Wednesday, June 1st at 4 p.m. Please support our projects and buy raffle tickets if you haven't already done so. You may refer to the raffle page in your program book for the link.
Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
We wish you good health and that we are all together in person for At Our Table 2023. L'chaim!